Hello everybody, Jediwarlock here and welcome back to another video here on the channel. Today, I'm returning to the world of Lord of the Rings Online to analyze one of my favorite regions in the game, the North Downs. Located in the west of Middle-earth and bordered by Evendim, Breeland, and Angmar itself, the North Downs are a remnant of the ancient kingdom of Arthedain, but have since fallen to ruin. This is one of the first areas players in LotRO can venture to after questing through the starter zones, and I would consider it something of a sophomore region within the game. Once you've learned the basics of systems such as reputation, trait points, and maybe even mounted travel, you can expand your capabilities and fully immerse yourself in the game through regions like the North Downs, with others including the Lone Lands and, more recently, the Wildwood subzone. This was the first quest pack I ever purchased on my account, and I still remember, probably 9 or 10 years ago now, using a, get this, physical Turbine Point gift card to unlock it. For this video, I'll try to put my nostalgia goggles aside and examine this zone from the storyline, landscape, and objective content perspectives to demonstrate why the North Downs region is one of the most worthwhile quest packs in all of LotRO. So, with all that being said, let's get right into it. Since the North Downs were one of the areas introduced with the initial Shadows of Angmar release of LotRO, the storyline revolves around the growing threat of Angmar, led by the infamous Witch King and the enemy encroaching on the land of the Free Peoples. Long ago, the northern kingdom of Arnor was decimated by the Witch King's armies, leaving the capital city of Fornost abandoned, and many of the other settlements destroyed. 1,000 years later, men, dwarves, and elves have re-inhabited the area, but to a much lesser extent than the Númenóreans of old. Now, after centuries of relative loneliness and peace, the North Downs are once again a site of war. Through the eastern passes into Angmar, hordes of orcs and goblins, along with men of the Angmarim, have poured into the North Downs, taking over the castle of Fornost and several of the surrounding ruins. Farmers have fled their remote fields, hunting is no longer safe, and even Trestlebridge, the largest human settlement in the area, is under relentless attack from orcs. But not all hope is lost. Here, among the sprawling hills and windswept fields, the Rangers of the North work to undermine the enemy's invasion from their secret fortress of Estildine. As a player recently entering the area, it falls to you to assist the Rangers and the other Free Peoples as they work to stop the invasion from Angmar here, or risk further destruction in more homely lands such as Breeland and even the Shire. I honestly believe the story of the North Downs is one of the most interesting in all of Eriador. So far in the story of the game, players have been dealing with more local enemies, such as outlaws, wildlife, and scattered goblin and orc camps. I would constitute these as passive threats. They mostly just feel like enemies that exist to fill quest objectives and make the landscape feel complete, which they do well. However, the invasion of the North Downs marks the first time in the LotRO storyline where there is an active threat that could have drastic consequences for the world of Middle-earth should the enemies succeed. In my opinion, this makes the quest experience more engaging and feel like it has more weight within the overall world. Once you've delivered enough pies around the Shire and taught brigands a lesson or two in Breeland, it's refreshing to encounter a more serious threat that keeps you and your allies on your toes, and Turbine Games delivered an excellent quest line for players who have reached that point in their journey. Also, as an addendum to the story content, the Attack at Dawn skirmish happens in the North Downs, and is essentially a final mission that involves you taking out one of the orc generals who has found out the secret location of Estildine. I'm not exactly sure why I purchased this a long time ago, but it can be a good source of reputation with the Rangers, despite it taking me over 20 deliberate runs to finally get Pug to spawn for the deed. Pug. It's a fun little instance, but it's not required to get a complete narrative experience within the region. If there's one thing you all know I like looking at in Middle-earth, it's the incredible maps and world design. The North Downs are no exception to LotRO's renowned landscapes, with several noteworthy areas worth documenting for you today. When you first enter the North Downs, you find the simple town of Trestlebridge, one of the northernmost settlements of the Men of Bree. This is no peaceful town, however. Smoke and rubble litter the streets, courtesy of the nearby orcs that have invaded the region, which further accentuate the urgency of the situation. Across the majestic trestle span, the chasm of Nanwath-Ren has been overrun by orcs, goblins, and fouler servants of the enemy. This is one of the first major outdoor areas that functions as an outdoor fellowship instance, with many signature enemies and quests requiring players to work together to overcome this first major stronghold in the region. After securing the pass and Trestlebridge for the time being, the lengthy greenway guides adventurers into the foreboding Fields of Fornost, the doormat of the eponymous capital of Arthedain. Crumbling ruins and tormented ghosts litter the gloomy area, and it falls to you and a contingent of rangers to secure the area before a more substantial assault on Fornost proper can begin. Moving westward across the zone, the Forest of Anandir and the Plains of Kingsfell open up, cradling secluded farms and fields under threat by orc scouts. The remaining inhabitants, though few and far between, stand fast in defense of their property but are vastly outnumbered by the encroaching masses. Adventurers passing through may lend assistance where it can be found, but the area is largely deserted, a visual representation of the largely forgotten region that is the North Downs. To the north and south, the villages of Othrakar and Lyn Gileath can be found, respectively, and host distant colonies of dwarves and elves. They face their own troubles with the influx of enemies, and heroes can work to secure these areas to unify the Free People's front against the Shadow. I think these areas perfectly incorporate the elf and dwarf architecture into the zone, and provide great introductions to some of the other races of Middle-earth for human or hobbit players who have had limited experience with the other cultures. To the south of Lyn Gileath, the forested steppes of Tower Gonwaith are home to the Etten Caves, a sprawling, tranquil underground area that both hillmen and stone trolls call home. While not too important to the overall story, it is one of the most pristine areas in the entire zone, and I just couldn't leave it out of this video. If you haven't quested here before, it's definitely worth exploring with a friend. Within the central mountain range of the zone, the hidden stronghold of Estildine carves a passage between the east and west portions of the North Downs. This area has architecture consistent with other ruins and buildings from the time of Arnor, and the library especially shows off the ancient history of the kingdom, with books and scrolls lining the walls of the room. The rangers even meet and conduct business here, opposed to some place like an old court or throne room, which is an interesting little detail that shows the Dunedain prioritize knowledge and defense over power itself. Traveling east out of Estildine, you may come across an allied tribe of Earthkin, or perhaps lone ranger scouts in the Runenlad, through which a massive trail runs and marks the path of the orcish war machines. Scattered pine trees and scrub grass offer the only company here, and the area feels desolate, like much of what was once green has been corrupted. This valley is reminiscent of the Lone Lands in the art style and enemies you face, but iterates on the specifics to give you a new and engaging experience. The same can be said for Dol Dinen, the most significant orc stronghold in the North Downs. While it does share some similarities with other enemy encampments you've encountered thus far, there are a few key differences. A smoky haze blankets the area due to the fires of the orcs, and the orcs have called the hill men to their aid, setting up a joint headquarters in Hisuk and Tumat, the most heavily fortified camps. I love this area for questing and exploring, maybe because it shares so many similarities with the other areas like Trestlebridge and Anandir, but with the burned and invaded aspects of it. This is what much of Middle-earth will become should you fail to stop the Witch King's plans. The northern steppes of Nen Amlug are where the gates of Angmar lie. Angmarim patrol the camps near the gate itself, the statue of which acts as a grim mirror of the great Argonath that stands watch over Gondor. It will be some time before you can venture down these paths into the realm of Angmar itself, but until then, you can make yourself at home, keeping the swarm of Angmarim and other enemies at bay that have invaded the nearby ruins. This area isn't quite as dark as it could be, with no changes to the haze or the skybox, but maybe that's because of the immediacy of the North Downs invasion. There hasn't been a ton of time to set up all the dark altars and fog machines these guys have a habit of using. Last but not least, the lost city of Fornost itself invites players to ascend the spires and take down the evil that now dwells there. I really like how each of the areas has its own theme, but still combines the orc, undead, and Angmarim bosses well as you work to ascend the tower and retake Fornost once and for all. The size and scale of the city feels real, and the atmosphere is menacing and feels forgotten, even if the graphics do remind me of an Unreal Tournament castle arena for some reason. As a whole, the North Downs have variety, mystery, and plenty of threats for heroes to deal with, and does a pretty good job adding on to the landscapes and art assets you've seen previously throughout your journey in Middle-earth. Briefly, I wanted to discuss the content you'll receive if you decide to purchase the North Downs Quest Pack. According to the LotRO wiki, the current price of the Quest Pack is 595 LotRO points, which translate to roughly $8 if you were to purchase the 600 LotRO point amount on the online store. In my opinion, this is well worth the price, as it unlocks over 120 quests for players level 20 to 30 and beyond, and also grants players access to all 4 wings of the Fornost City instance, a noble quest for adventurers looking to group up and tackle one of the greatest threats to the region. For casual players of the game, this purchase can provide weeks of content, and even more for those interested in leveling alt characters. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this was the first quest pack I ever purchased in LotRO, and I have never once regretted that decision. The North Downs are hands down one of the best LotRO zones in the game, in my humble opinion. The questing is one of the keystones of the entire Shadows of Angmar storyline, and the world environments are varied and intriguing. While the Lone Lands offers a great experience too, and I highly recommend checking that zone out, the story in the zone doesn't feel quite as directly related to the threat of Angmar as the North Downs, the first new target of the Witch King as he begins his war on Eriador. I hope you'll consider checking out this zone, but wherever you might wander, I look forward to seeing you all in Middle-earth. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new to join the Jedi Order, comment down below with your thoughts, and until next time, peace.